December 17th, 1944. A fir forest near Wielsum, Belgium. The air is a frozen, choking gray. It smells of pine, scorched earth, and fear. Sergeant Elias Vance, 26, shivers. But not just from the minus 15 degrees Celsius cold. The sounds are wrong. Not the rhythmic shelling they've grown used to, but the frantic, panicked roar of heavy engines, retreating American engines. His breath plumes into the icy darkness. He is a medical technician, TI-4, attached to the 333rd Field Artillery Battalion. His sole purpose, according to the official Army manual, is to stop bleeding and splint bones. His weapon is a litter, not a rifle. But right now, he's peering through the slits of a makeshift foxhole, gripping an M1 Garand. The rifle feels heavy, cold, and profoundly wrong in his hands, which are trained only for the precise application of gauze and tourniquets. He hears shouts in German, closer than they should be. Much too close. His unit, the 333rd, is an all-black service unit, segregated and largely ignored. Positioned well behind the established American front line near the Schnee Eifel. They were supposed to be safe. They were supposed to be only healers. The central contradiction slams into him like a mortar round. How do you save lives when the entire world around you is suddenly collapsing into death? Elias looks down the dark, snow-covered forest track. He knows what's coming. Everything was a lie. But before we dive deeper into this incredible, untold story that history tried to bury, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. This is the Battle of the Bulge. This is the largest and bloodiest single battle fought by the United States in World War II. Think about that. The date is December 16th, 1944, at 0530 hours. The German Wehrmacht launches its desperate, massive counteroffensive through the heavily forested Ardennes region of Belgium and Luxembourg. Hitler's goal? Pierce the weak American lines, seize the port of Antwerp, and force a negotiated peace. The German offensive is swift, brutal, and utterly unexpected. The American High Command was certain the rugged terrain was an impassable shield. They were wrong. The U.S. Army had intentionally placed many of its segregated African American units, those deemed non-essential or unfit for direct combat, in the so-called quiet sectors of the Ardennes. They were the supply lines, the transport drivers, the field artillery, and, critically, the medical staff. Units like the 333rd Field Artillery Battalion and the associated 395th Field Artillery Battalion, both comprising black enlisted men and mostly white officers, were stationed near the front but not expected to fight infantry. Records show the official view was that these units were less likely to desert under fire, a racist irony. Given their position, we focus on two pivotal medical units that day, the medical detachments attached to the 333rd and the 395th. PFC, Elijah Eli Covington, 19. He is a medic from Chicago, Illinois. Before the war, Eli was the son of a prominent Baptist preacher on the South Side. He signed up hoping to become a doctor, only to find himself cleaning latrines and being told his hands were only suitable for bandages. He is attached to the 395th Field Artillery Battalion. He is slight, with spectacles that keep slipping down his nose. Eli dialogue. Tense whisper. They told us the 395th was here because the sector was like a picnic, a staging area. We were supposed to treat frostbite, not shrapnel. Records showed that in the initial 24 hours of the offensive, nearly 19,000 American troops were surrounded, captured, or killed. The German spearhead, led by the formidable 5th Panzer Army, burst through weak points near Schnee, Eifel, and St. Vith, moving faster than anyone imagined. The irony is crushing. Black soldiers were separated from white soldiers because the army claimed mixing them would hurt morale. Yet, when the line crumbled, these segregated units were the only thing standing between the German tanks and the entire American Rear Area CPL. Annemarie Schmidt, 28. She is a pharmacist's daughter from a small town near Dusseldorf, Germany. Annemarie is serving in the National Sozialists Volkswahl Fahrt NSV, a German civilian welfare organization, traveling with a supply convoy. She is hollow-cheeked from the rationing, but intensely loyal. She truly believes in the Aryan supremacy propaganda she has been fed. On December 17, 1944, Anna Marie's convoy is moving west, near St. Vith, expecting a clear route through conquered territory. She has never seen an African-American soldier. She believes the propaganda that the American army is a Negro-Jewish mercenary force filled with cowards. This is what she was taught. Everything was a lie. This is the moment of cognitive dissonance. The German advance is so swift, it outruns its own intelligence. They expect to find only scattering white GIs. Instead, they run into the stationary positions of the 333rd Field Artillery Battalion. Sergeant Elias Vance's unit 333rd is hit first. His section, including the medic tents, is situated in a small village called Wereth. They are suddenly completely cut off from the retreating main force near St. Vith. Their designated role is medical. Their reality is frontline combat. Think about that. These men, trained to save lives, are now forced to be the first line of defense simply because the military establishment deemed their lives less valuable, placing them in an ostensibly safe but ultimately vulnerable rear position. The army failed them by segregation, and history now demanded they save the army through sheer will. December 17th, 1944, 11:45 a.m. The woods near Wereth, Belgium. The roar of the German Nebelwerfer rockets is immediately followed by the shattering impact of 88mm shells. The air is thick with smoke and the smell of burning wood and cordict. First Lieutenant Calvin B. Stewart, 35 Stewart, a lawyer from Chicago before the war, is the ranking officer of the 333rd Medical Detachment trapped in the woods. His face is grim, reflecting the reality in the eyes of his men. His official orders were to establish a triage point and evacuate the wounded. Now, he gives the new orders. Stewart dialogue, sharp, clear, medics. Abandon the litters. Grab every weapon you can find. We are securing this area. No wounded man falls into enemy hands. I repeat, this is a defense position now. Everything was a lie? The scene erupts into chaos and grim resolve. Eli Covington, the preacher's son, is pinned down with 3 other medics. He sees a German scout patrol advancing through the fog. They are laughing, confident, carrying not just rifles, but flamethrowers. Private Rufus Doc Jenkins, 24. Rufus, a former dock worker from Savannah, Georgia, is huge and normally genial. His hands, usually clumsy outside of surgery, grip a Browning automatic rifle bar. He is one of the few who always kept a rifle cleaned, just in case. Jenkins' dialogue. A low growl. They cumin, Lieutenant. They ain't expecting us, though. Let's give M something to talk about. The medics open fire. This isn't planned defense. This is instinctive, desperate resistance. The German patrol, shocked by the unexpected heavy fire from what they assumed was empty rear territory, momentarily retreats. The medic station, now a hasty fort, holds. But the real tragedy is unfolding nearby. A small, separate group of 11 medics from the 333rd, separated during the rapid German advance, find themselves near the hamlet of Wereth. They take shelter in a barn belonging to a Belgian farmer, Herman Lange. December 1, 7th, 1944. Late afternoon. Wereth Hamlet. The 11 soldiers are exhausted, out of medical supplies, and critically low on ammunition. Documents revealed they were attempting to locate the main body of the retreating U.S. 16th Infantry Division. They are far past the point of return. Meanwhile, Anna Marie Schmidt's NSV convoy is stalled due to rubble near a village. Her unit of German soldiers, part of the 1st SS Panzer Division, Leibstandart, SS Adolf Hitler, detours and stumbles upon the farmhouse inn where thought Anna Marie is riding in the second truck. She steps out and sees the SS soldiers roughly pulling 11 uniformed American soldiers from the barn, but she freezes. The American soldiers are black. The propaganda. The years of indoctrination crash against the sight of these wearied, snow-covered men in U.S. uniform. Anna-Marie, internal monologue, they are not the subhuman mercenaries we were promised. They are just men. They are cold. They are captured. The SS soldiers, led by a young, arrogant SS Unterscharfer, Klaus Berger, are furious. They didn't expect to waste time on N********* and the reared Berger dialogue. Berger dialogue, screamed in German, reconstructed, "You filthy apes! You should be fighting in Africa, not in the Reich's European war. What were you doing here? Hiding, weren't you?" Records show that the 11 captured men included TI-4 James A. Stewart, 27, PFC George Davis, 26, and PFC Thomas J. Fort, 21. They offer no resistance. They are prisoners of war. Berger orders them marched into the snowy field. Anna-Marie watches from the convoy. Her legs are frozen to the spot. She wants to scream. The sight contradicts everything her mind holds. The medics, despite their prisoner status, are defiant. T4 Stewart quietly reminds his men, Stewart dialogue, low, steady, we wear the uniform. We claim the rights. We are American soldiers. Remember that. The SS unit forces the 11 men to stand shoulder to shoulder. They are brutally beaten with rifle butts. Then, one by one, the SS soldiers start bayoneting the unarmed medics. The sounds cut through the crisp air. The thud of the blade, the cries of pain, the silence of the forest. This is an atrocity. Anna-Marie sees the entire thing. The realization hits her with the force of an artillery blast. This is institutional evil. It is not war. It is murder. She stares at the blood pooling in the snow. She sees the young face of PFC Fort, only 21, his eyes wide with shock and pain. She can't move. She can't speak. Her country, her people, are committing a crime against humanity in the name of a lie. Everything was a lie. Meanwhile, LT Stewart's main detachment, oblivious to the Wereth massacre, continues its desperate defense. They hold the position until December 18th, buying critical hours for the shattered American main forces to reorganize near St. Vith. They treat their own wounded under fire, stopping only when ordered to withdraw. December 19th, 1944, Wielsum region. The Germans surge forward. The defense by the 333rd and other isolated units slowed the advance just enough. The price, however, was immense. The 11 medics captured in Wereth are all dead. Records show they were tortured, bayoneted, and shot. The bodies of the 11 medics, the Wereth 11, were discovered 2 months later by advancing American troops in February 1945 after the German tide had been pushed back. Farmer Hermann Lange, who had witnessed the atrocity, was the first to report it. It's maintaining a vigil over the frozen corpses despite German threats. The official response was bureaucratic silence. The U.S. Army, still operating under strict segregation laws, treated the case with chilling neglect. The men were quietly buried and largely forgotten. Archives contain internal military documents that simply list the cause of death as killed in action, deliberately obscuring the nature of the atrocity. The Army was reluctant to highlight a war crime committed against black soldiers, fearing it would ignite domestic racial tension. Anna-Marie Schmitz. Transformation. Anna-Marie never forgot the horror she witnessed in Wereth. Her faith in the Reich was utterly shattered. In April 1945, during the final collapse of German resistance in the Rhine Valley, she risks her life to help American prisoners of war escape a transport. In a diary entry dated, she writes, "I believed in the promise of purity. I saw only filth in the snow at Wereth. The faces of those black soldiers. They were only men. My FRCR is a murderer. The man who wore the uniform of salvation, the medic, was killed by the man who wore the uniform of my nation, the SS. This shame is mine. I will carry it until I can tell someone what I saw." Elias Vance, the sergeant who took up the M1 Grand, survived the bulge. He was later reassigned to the main force and help treat. Casualties from the integrated 761st Tank Battalion, the Black Panthers, who finally received the respect they earned. Elias, however, was haunted by the contradiction. In a letter dated July 1946 to his younger sister back home in Philadelphia, Elias writes, "They gave us the rifle so we could protect the white wounded. But they never meant for us to protect ourselves. We saved more men than we had to, only to see our own brothers, the Wereth 11, killed with such hatred. We were heroes in Belgium, but when I came home to Philly, I was just another colored boy. It makes the sacrifice a terrible, bitter fruit." PFC Eli Covington also survived. His perspective shifted completely. Before the war, he was seeking acceptance into his system. After the Wereth massacre, which he learned about months later, sought revolution. In a 1946 interview with the Chicago Defender, Eli said, "I saw the enemy. It wasn't just the German in the gray uniform. It was the system that put us in a position to die first, kept us segregated, and then tried to hide the murder. We fought for 2 freedoms in the Ardennes. The second one is the hardest, and we're fighting it right now." The institutional evil of segregation meant the Wereth 11 never received the attention. Given 2 similar atrocities against white soldiers, the massacre was not included in the official war crimes trials. Think about that. 11 American soldiers were tortured and murdered by the SS. The United States government actively downplayed the atrocity because of the color of their skin. Everything was a lie. Research reveals the long suppression of this story. British historian Dr. Geoffrey Wells, in his 1998 book The Shadow Line, Race and Atrocity in the Ardennes, was one of the first to piece together the testimonies of the few survivors and the detailed account of Herman Lange. American military records were intentionally ambiguous. It took the dedicated work of local Belgian historians, most notably Herman Gout, starting in the 1980s, to pressure the U.S. government for official acknowledgement. The story of the Wereth 11 was virtually lost to official American history for over 4 decades. It was the resilience of the local Belgian community that preserved their memory. Herman Lange, the farmer, became the first custodian of their sacrifice. In 1994, on the 50th anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge, a simple granite monument was finally erected on the spot where the 11 men died in Wereth. The memorial lists the names, ranks, and serial numbers of the murdered medics. PFC Curtis P. Adams, T5 Corey T. Johnson, PFC George Davis, PFC Thomas J. Fort, PFC Robert E. Green, TI4 James A. Stewart, PFC Jimmy L. James, PFC Richard H. Davis, PFC Dew W. Turner, PFC Melvin V. Townsend, and T5 William V. Holland. This is more than a war story. This is a moral instruction. It is the story of how individual moral courage, the medics fighting, the farmer protecting the site, the German woman changing her allegiance, can resist institutional evil segregation. Propaganda, war crimes, cover-ups. The story matters now because the fight for recognition, dignity, and the full truth of history is never truly over. The medics were forced to violate their oath to heal in order to survive. They were then denied the honor they fought to earn. They were denied their full humanity by the very government they fought to save. Anna Marie Schmidt, in a final interview given in 2003 before her death, offered a powerful reflection that ties the past to the present. The day I saw the blood of the Negro soldiers in the Belgian snow, I realized that true victory is not about conquering territory. True victory is realizing the common ground you share with the person your government told you to hate. That is the only fight worth winning. The legacy of the Wereth 11 is not one of defeat, but of profound moral reckoning. They were healers who became warriors, and in doing so, exposed the deepest wounds of their own nation. Their names, carved into the stone in Wereth, demand that we always look past the official narrative to the sacrifice of the overlooked.